This is Leah Steele. Welcome to the Wealth Witch Podcast. Just a few years ago, I experienced complete financial collapse. We lost a business, our home, and a car. My husband was selling plasma to pay for diapers and formula. I was living a life I hated, and I was miserable. It was the lowest part of my life. It ended up being my biggest blessing. Just a few short years later, I've designed the life of my dreams. I live a life of luxury in beautiful Bali, Indonesia, travel the world, and spend my days helping others manifest wealth and abundance. Living a purpose-led life changed everything for me. This podcast is about my journey, my top tips and tools for manifestation, and interviews with all the amazing, world-changing, inspiring people I meet along the way. Welcome to my world. This is Leah Steele, the Wealth Witch. So in deciding to do this podcast, there were a lot of potential ways that it could go, and there were a lot of subjects that I could have talked about. I think everybody really knows that wealth consciousness, especially in the spiritual community, is really, really near and dear to my heart. And I really felt like doing the podcast as the Wealth Witch would be really, really impactful because there's so many people out there that are struggling with this idea of purpose has to equal poverty. And I'm such a firm believer in that that's not the case, that you were given this gift to share with the world. And in order to do that, we really need to step into ownership of the gift and do it in a way where we can be financially supported. I think so many people give up on purpose and give up on their dreams because they don't have the financial resources to continue sharing the gift. So when I started talking about doing this, I thought it would be really amazing to focus on wealth consciousness topics within the spiritual space. And not only that, but also to talk about the different stigma around owning your spiritual gifts and being a spiritual entrepreneur of any kind, and the stigma that comes with that, and how we get past that, and how we really learn to embrace the gifts and do it in a way that we can be hugely financially prosperous and abundant. So in this episode today, I really just wanted to talk about how I got here, what led me to this place, and what that's looked like for me financially along the way. So I was in addiction treatment for a very, very long time and owned addiction treatment businesses that were very successful. And I was a networker and a builder of community in the treatment industry. I was miserable. I didn't like what I did. I was really good at it, but it was sucking my soul every single day. And when I began to have my spiritual reawakening, I started asking myself, is there something more? Is there more to life out there? Or is it just this? Is it just waking up every day, going to a job that, though financially prosperous and was affording me all the things that I believed I wanted and needed in a perfect life, I was miserable. So I started questioning, is there more? Is there more out there? Is there something that would give me greater fulfillment at a soul level? And as I began to ask those questions and as I began to show up more for myself, that reawakening happened. And I started to really realize that spiritual gifts that I'd had my entire life that had gone dormant were starting to reawaken. I get asked all the time, how did I know that this was my calling? So I started this spiritual reawakening, and I decided that I was going to call on Kali. And the women in my women's circle were like, I don't think you want to do that. Like, do you even know what you're messing with? And I thought, I've done a lot. I've done a lot of spiritual work. I've done a lot of spiritual development work. I'll be fine. It's not going to be that big of a deal. It can't possibly be that big of a deal. Well, over the next year, literally my entire life burned down to the ground. The businesses that had previously been very successful imploded. We were literally left with nothing. We lost $3 million, ended up almost $1 million in debt, lost a house, lost a car. And at one period of time, my husband was selling plasma to pay for diapers and formula. So it was really like the lowest of the low. For me anyway, at that point in my life, it was the worst thing that I had experienced. And looking back now, it was the very best thing that ever happened to me, because in that moment, in the ashes, when truly like the phoenix rose, and I have a tattoo of a phoenix on my arm to commemorate this, so that I will never forget this, that I always have the ability to rise above, that I always have the ability to get through anything that happens to me, and not just get through it, but to flourish. So the businesses burned down. We're left with nothing, and I'm left with nothing except my family and my spirituality. And I had already been doing some classes, and I had already been coaching at some level, but I decided that I was going to go all in on my coaching business. But I wasn't quite sure what the direction was, and I didn't really understand why I was doing it. I just knew it was a knowing. It was a deep knowing that that's what I was meant to do, and that's what I was supposed to do on this planet. And I will never forget, I was sitting on my couch and I received a phone call from a friend, and she had been diagnosed with cancer, and she had undergone a year of treatment. She'd done chemo, she'd done radiation, and she was coming up on her 40th birthday. And she was a friend that I had had since high school, and we did a lot of like partying together and drinking and carrying on. We were party girls for sure during certain periods of time in our life. And she called me and she said, I'm going to cancel. She was getting ready to turn 40 and she was having a big birthday party. And she called me and she said, I'm going to cancel my birthday party because I'm just not feeling it. I don't feel like I want to get together with a bunch of people and go out and drink. She's like, I really feel like I want to do something more spiritual. And I thought I'd reach out to you because I thought maybe you might have a recommendation. And I was getting ready to get in the shower and I said, yeah, absolutely. Let me think on that. Let me think about what I would recommend for you to do. And I hung up the phone and I went and got in the shower. And as I was in the shower, this download started coming through about exactly what she needed to do to get to the place that she desired to go. We had talked, it was a longer conversation than what I just repeated to you, but we had talked about what her goals were and where she wanted to be, and she was wanting to have a baby. And so I literally got this download for her. And after I got the download, I went out and I called her back and I gave her all the information. And I sat on my couch and I just knew. I knew in that moment that my purpose on this planet was to be a vessel of information to help other women step into their purpose. And that has morphed and evolved over the years since. But it was really like even giving me the purpose through the download was a realization for me that I was able to receive information like that I was able to have that connection to the divine. And that was just really impactful. And I knew. And at that point, I knew that I was here to do something much bigger than I even comprehended at the time. And I just sort of like went all in, as I do with anything in my life. Like if you know me, you've been around me at all, and as you'll get to know me through this podcast, I don't half-ass things. I'm all the way fucking in when I decide to do something. And I don't believe that I have any limitations other than the ones that I place on myself. So that's sort of like how I knew that this was my calling, or that's how I knew that this is what I was meant to do. And originally it was all about purpose work. It was about helping people discover their purpose work, helping people, figure out what's their soul purpose, and then what's their purpose work, and step into doing that. And how it's evolved is really this other piece about wealth alchemy, that it doesn't have to just be a struggle. We don't need to just constantly be in this state of like spirituality means I have to struggle. It means I have to sacrifice. We get to be prosperous. We get to live financially and otherwise abundant lives doing the things that we love by sharing our gifts with the world. So the Wealth Witch was born, and I started getting all of these downloads about wealth consciousness and about changing the wealth consciousness of the planet, and in particular, the spiritual community. So the people that I work with, and I imagine all of the listeners of this podcast, or many of them, are going to fall into this category of spiritual entrepreneur. And so for me, it doesn't mean that you have to have a spiritually based business or that you have to be in online spiritual business. It means that you're a spiritual entrepreneur, so that you come at life and at work and at business from a heart-centered and spiritual lens. And so I have clients that are doctors, I have clients that are lawyers, and all in between, right? It's not just one specific type of person. And I just believe if we all led our lives a little more soul-led, if we tapped into our spirituality more, if we all did go all in on believing that we have a gift that we're here to share with the world, and shared that gift and did it in a way that we weren't limiting ourselves, what a more magical, amazing place this world would be. So I started this business, and it's been really challenging at times and really rewarding at times, and a huge, there's a huge growth opportunity, I feel like, at every single turn. But for me, being able to make money doing what I love and being able to show other people how to make money doing what they love and doing their purpose work has been some of the most rewarding times and experiences of my life. And the fact that I'm able to financially provide for my family and do all the things that I've only ever dreamed of doing, and travel the world and take my family on amazing vacations and allow my children to have these experiences of being world citizens. All of that is our amazing, amazing bonuses. So that's kind of a little bit about how I got here to this place and what the former life was about, and, why I'm doing what I'm doing. For me, it's about working with an individual or a group of individuals, but the purpose is so much greater than just the one person or the group of people. Because I truly believe that when one person steps into their purpose, or one person buys into and goes all in on, I can be ridiculously financially abundant doing my purpose work, the ripple effect that creates in the world, that's what begins to shift the collective consciousness. That's what creates that wealth alchemy. That's where we take our limitations and we actually are able to take self-responsibility and self-accountability and look at, I don't have limits. I don't have limitations. They are only the self-imposed ones. Those are the only limitations that I have, or the only blocks that are in my way. And for me, that's what it's about. It is the ripple effect. It is absolutely how does my action today in this moment impact not just me, not just my family, not just my community, but the city that I'm in, the state I'm in, the continent I'm on, the world, and universally and throughout our universe and other universes. What is the ripple effect? That to me is the purpose behind doing all of this work. It is shifting the planet. It is continuing the amazing awakening that's happening on the planet. It is getting people to be more soul-centered and soul-focused and leading from that heart space so that they're going out and making a difference in the world. And the more people do that, the the bigger the ripple effect is, and then the more people that step into purpose, and then the bigger the ripple effect is. And that's how we really affect change on this planet. So lots of things coming up. I'm excited to be interviewing people, but mostly I'm really just excited to be sharing wealth alchemy concepts. I'm excited to be talking about the things that light me up, things having to do with how to create business, how to manifest money, how to really design the life that you deeply desire, and allowing people to really take ownership of that they get to design the life that they deeply desire, that they get to claim how they want to live and be in the world. And that there really is no dream that's too big, that your dreams are of the divine. If you have the dream, if you can conceive of the thing, it is because you were meant to achieve it. And being able to conceive of that thing, the next step is go take some inspired action and go after it, no matter how small the step, no matter how little the action is. Those actions compound. And then the next thing you know, you're reaching out and just about to grab and touch that dream. And then the next thing you know, you're holding the dream. The dream never remains the same, though. And that's the great thing. It's like, a year ago, I had a dream of, or a little over a year ago now, 2 years. I can't believe it. So crazy. So we decided that we were going to move to Bali. We wanted to move our family to Bali. It was a dream. When we set the dream, so we've been in Bali for 10 and a half months now. And it was 13 months prior to moving that we decided that we were going to go. At that point in time, we had no idea how we were going to make that happen financially or otherwise, but we just decided that we were going to do it. We decided that that was what our dream was. And we got on board with the fact that we could create that dream and make that dream a reality. And we set a 12-month goal. And I practiced all my tools of manifestation, which I'll be sharing on this podcast. But, I got myself aligned. I got into a mode of receiving. I got into a place of alignment. I detached from the outcome. I did all the things that I knew to do to make that a reality. But most importantly, every day I woke up, I asked for divine guidance, and then I took action on whatever it was that was put in front of me, whatever I was told to do. I took action on that thing. And little by little, little action by little action, that looking back on, not one of those actions would have made sense, that they would land me where I ended up. But 13 months later, a month after we set the goal to go, we were living in Bali. And we are living an absolutely magically soul-aligned life in Bali because we believed in ourselves, because we didn't allow limitations to stop us, because when we hit bumps in the road and things looked like they weren't going to work out, we still believed in the magic. We still believed in our ability to be powerful beings of creation. And so those are the concepts that I want to talk about here on this podcast. I want to share with you how I create my reality. I want to talk to you about creation journaling and about how important it is to put pen to paper and call in the things that you deeply desire. So that is kind of the story of how I got here. I'm sure that as we progress, we will talk more about it. I'll share more about it. But I'm excited. I'm excited to do this. I'm excited for this project. I'm excited to have a space where I can just get on and ramble to all of you and tell you all of the crazy things that pop into my head on a daily basis. But more importantly, to share the tools and to share the wisdom that have been passed to me through my mentors, through my teachers, through the divine downloads that I get, through the inspiration that seems to continuously be showing up in my life on a day-to-day basis, the synchronicities that the stuff that the shit you can't make up, right? So yeah, that's that's what's going to be happening. That is what this podcast is going to be about. I'm really excited for what's ahead, and I'm pleased to have you joining me on the ride. So this is Leah Steele, the Wealth Witch. Until next time, keep manifesting money. That's a wrap. Thank you for joining me. Remember, wealth is a mindset, and you absolutely deserve to live the life you deeply desire. And with belief and intention, you create your reality. Until next time, this is Leah Steele, the Wealth Witch.